What's happening, everybody?
Team
Don't
Creams?
adjust your viewing. Oh, Jesus. Man, I was going somewhere with that, and you just had to mess that up. We'll explain that in a second, but don't. If you're watching the show, don't adjust your viewing device. Yes, I have no hair. Yes, I chose to do this. Yes, I know my cranium scares children. So we're good. Let's establish that and move on. Welcome, everyone, to the latest and greatest episode of the Battle Bros podcast. My name is Mac. This handsome SOB is Alamo. Welcome to the show. Side note, real quick, since he kind of completely derailed everything. If you're not doing so, there is a gentleman who has a channel on Facebook and YouTube called Nobody Cares Anthony. And I introduced Alamo to this last night during our bi-weekly meeting that we have for production and just making sure we have all of our notes together. We literally spent 30 minutes on here just laughing our collective asses and balls off. I mean, good God, the dude is hilarious. If you love the Bostonian accent, this guy gets on there and just talks about funny stuff. Like I don't even want to ruin it. It's just fantastic. It's hilarious as shit. So get on there, watch it. It's called Nobody Cares Anthony. He's a good one. It's hilarious. Okay, so just check that out. Um, for those of you
Good God,
joining us for the
that's a
first time,
$49,000 turd.
yeah, you're gonna have that's one of his newer ones, and yeah, you just gotta watch that. So, um, we're gonna focus and we're gonna move on. Otherwise, we're gonna do 30 minutes on that number. So, yeah. If you haven't joined us before, Alamo and I are best friends from high school. We've known each other for 20 plus years. Whereas I was in the National Guard and went to Afghanistan, Alamo was on active duty and ended up going to Iraq. So we kind of have an opposite ends of the spectrum there when we talk about different subject matter topics related to the military and veteran community. We have been doing this since 2021. This is going into the third year that we've been doing this. July 4th, I think, will be 3 years. We are in our middle. We are about 7 episodes into our fourth season. So we appreciate you stopping by and
Yeah,
checking it
something
out.
like that.
You can always go back and watch previous episodes on YouTube, Spotify, bunch of different apps where you can go find podcasts and whatnot. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But we would greatly appreciate you checking us out on one of those platforms, giving us the old like and share button, and subscribing, all that good stuff. You'll hopefully see why when we get into our show here in a little bit. But if you've been to the show, if you've watched us before or listened to us, hey, glad to have you back. We're so thrilled to have you here with us on a Friday night, like always. So yeah, if you're like I said, if you're joining us the first time, just sit back, relax, and listen to the show, watch the show, whatever, and hopefully you learn something or have a conversation with somebody that this might be pertinent to. So yeah, on that note, let's hit the ground running and start this shindig going and all that good stuff. So last week, if you caught our episode, it was episode 072, and we were talking about a special topic of St. Patty's Day because it was this last Sunday. And we actually talked a good portion about how Irish immigrants to our great country were very, very key and instrumental to not only George Washington, but the victory of during the Revolutionary War. Go back, check that out. We could have easily done another 3 hours on that topic, but we kind of hit the highlights there and kept things rolling. So feel free to check that out. That should be up on to Spotify once we get caught up on those. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Um, all that good stuff. That's meant for somebody else. So before we get into our topic tonight, we're going to read a little bit about some news that we caught earlier this week, and it's going to kind of talk and kind of give a little bit of a precursor to our episode tonight. If you don't already know or are aware of what the topic is, I'm going to read something right quick. So this is an article from thehill.com. This was from earlier this week. Alamo, I think, stepped out for just a second, so I'm going to just roll on without him. So, um, I'm going to kind of read over this article and explain what's going on here. So, two of America's highest-ranking retired generals testified on Tuesday that a series of errors during 20 years of war led to the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan in August of 2021. But they also conceded that multiple mistakes were made by the Biden administration. General Mark Milley, who is the former chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and before that, he was the chairman, the chief of staff of the Army, and then General Kenneth McKenzie, the former head of United States Central Command, which is here in MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, appeared before the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Seated behind them were the Gold Star families or relatives of the 13 American service members who died during the withdrawal. Committee Republicans slammed the Biden administration for a disastrous withdrawal, while Democratic lawmakers stressed that Afghanistan retreat can only be viewed in the lens of 20 years of decisions made across various administrations. Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to fly solo here for a second, so bear with me. All right. Milley, appearing before Congress for the first time since he stepped down from his role as the nation's highest-ranking military officer last fall, said decisions made during years of war, led to the 2021 collapse of the Afghan government as the Taliban swept to power following the American retreat. Quote, I think the whole thing was a strategic failure, Milley said, though he praised the U.S. military for carrying out its duty. Milley faulted the Biden administration for what he said was a poorly timed non-combatant evacuation operations, NEO, or the withdrawal of non-essential civilian and military personnel, which did not come until mid-August, a little more than 2 weeks before the deadline to leave. The fundamental flaw was the timing, Milley said. I think this was too slow and too late. And then that caused a series of events that resulted in the last couple of days. There are a lot of other mistakes that were made along the way, but I think that was key. So he goes on to testify about how the U.S. lacked proper intelligence. But one of the things he also said, and this is something that was like, I read this and I was just like, wow, it's just dreadfully terrible that this happened. Um, so obviously, like they were talking about, the exit of troops left a vacuum. The Taliban rose back into power and whatnot after the 20 years of war and whatnot. So, where is that one fact? Hold on just a minute, folks. So yeah, they also talk about how 26 August of 2021, just days before the deadline, there was the suicide bomber that self-detonated at the airport's Abbey Gate, which resulted in the loss of life of 13 American troops and about 170 Afghans. What was very disturbing to hear amongst that, now that's obviously terrible, but I want to say, and I'm just looking for the statistic here, folks, so just bear with me. I'm trying to find it right here. So they had, hey, you back there, bud? Everything good?
Yeah, had connectivity issues, so yeah, just trying to sort them out.
Okay. No, you're good, man. I just kind of kept reading the article and all this stuff. So one of the things that they pointed out during this was they were talking about how there's, they're kind of spreading the blame around a little bit, which I get it, totally understand. But one of the things that they were talking about, here it is right here. The article says, ultimately, the U.S. withdrawal plunged Afghanistan back into a humanitarian crisis, with the Taliban re-implementing harsh conditions in the country. Hold on to your butts, people. This is the fact that I was reaching for. The U.S. also left some $80 billion worth of equipment and supplies in the country and was not able to evacuate everyone, including some Americans. So the exact number of those U.S. citizens left behind is unclear. Okay, so they're obviously talking about some very statistical information here and some other things that are kind of like, this is this person's fault, this is this person's fault. It kind of seems like there are people that are kind of spreading the love, and I say that with some quotation marks in the air with my fingers, they're kind of spreading around the wealth, the blame, the love, all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
I bring that up. That was that was probably the one major article that we saw during the week that was kind of noteworthy what we were talking about. But that brings us to our topic. I'm going to circle the wagons back around. Welcome
I'm gonna
to
be honest with you,
episode
dude. Though, real quick before we move on,
yeah,
this honestly, this is honestly something that like the same thing happened back in what was it 2014 with the whole withdrawal from Iraq and everything like that, and the way everything collapsed. It
yeah,
was nobody's fault. It was nobody's fault. It was no. Wait, no. It was this guy's fault, or no, it was that guy's fault. And they kind of threw. I think
I
who
think
was the commander? Who was the commander at the time? I think it was Petraeus. Was Petraeus the
Betrayus.
commander at the time?
I think
Trying
so.
to,
He was one
but
of them.
you know, like accept responsibility, man. Like, come on, guys. Like this is this is not hard. Like you're you're throwing blame off on everything else other than uh well duh
Yourself.
your stupid freaking decisions. You're freaking taking responsibility for the actions you took to get you guys in the situation that you freaking put yourselves in, and the situation that got people killed. So
So let me
yeah,
let me let me kind of double
sorry.
tap onto your point. I
I know
think
we were
part
talking
of
about
what
other
it
stuff. We
is.
were moving on, but
No, you're good, brother. Well, listen, I think part of it is too. Is they kind of get into this cycle of this is the idea I have. It's a great idea. We're now going to tweak it a little bit here. It may not be the best, but it's my idea. If it goes great, it goes great. It's a freaking big infusion of blood and adrenaline to your ego and to your professional stature. But if it fails, it's like, oh well, it was on him and him and him. It's like you're playing the shell game with the responsibility of those of making that call and whatnot. So it's just it's like a double-edged sword. You only want to hit, you only want to cut with the one side. You don't want it coming back and impaling you and falling so you fall on your sword and shit. So it's like, it's so, I tell you, dude, I don't ever think if I was gonna be an officer, I would probably stop at being a colonel. Like if I stayed in long enough, if I had done all that, because for a couple of reasons. One, at a colonel level, at the rank of colonel, you're still wearing your branch insignia. You still identify as a blank officer, an infantry officer, a special forces colonel, civil affairs, or freaking whatever the case may be. As soon as you make general officer, you take off your branch insignia because you're just like an executive. If you think about it, you're like the CEO, the COO, the CIO, whatever the case may be. So you kind of lose that identity and you just go and take on so much responsibility. But I don't think I can do that. Just I would want to stay with the troops and not get into that because the higher
Mhm.
up you go, it's just more and more nonsense you get into. You can still do cool stuff at the '06 level, but that's neither here nor there. But so as I was talking about, folks, tonight's conversation that we're going to have, this is episode 073, entitled Acknowledgement. We're going to talk about what that is, the good forms and the bad forms, and you'll understand if you were reading the listening to the article a little bit ago or watching, you're like, oh yeah. So yeah, they're acknowledging there were mistakes made in several different parts of the last 20 years. They're acknowledging that there was some failure points when the withdrawal took place in Afghanistan in 2021. By the way, if you want to see some really good information on that, there is a short documentary that was made called "Send Me," and basically it's about there is an organization called SOA. It's called Save Our Allies, and it's some people you've been. One of the prominent names behind that is Tim Kennedy, who wrote the book Scars and Stripes. We're going to hopefully do an episode on um, that book because we have both been reading that and enjoying the hell out of it, by the way. So stay tuned for that. But there is a documentary you did called Send Me, and it talks about how that whole thing came to fruition and then the obstacles and hurdles that they went and had to overcome in order to get and evacuate some, different amounts of American citizens and whatnot throughout that withdrawal and then following all that stuff, plus all the
Mhm.
chaos of when they got on the ground and everything else, and how they were just working the phones trying to get people out of there. And it's insane the amount of people that they've rescued with the almost, you know, minute amount of resources, and just like these guys are going out of their own pocket
You could
to
say
fly
it, bro.
airfare to
Like
get over there.
zero help.
Well, they were getting help, a lot of help from the State Department and whatnot, because they were able to say, "Yeah, we're trying to get this person out. We can't really get to it because our infrastructure has collapsed because the country's going down the tubes. It's in the crapper and everything else." So the way they went over there, and the ability for them to do what they did with as little, they did get some help, but it could have had a lot more. It's just mind blowing the amount of people that got out. I mean, we're talking thousands of people that they got out just on their own, just going over there and doing the
Mhm.
right thing. So it's called
And
something, I
Tim
believe.
Kennedy being part of that was just so fucking. I
It's
did it
cool.
again. So
You're good.
dope. I can never get used to this.
I slipped. It's all good.
You're
So anyway, so like we were talking about, we're talking about the subject of acknowledgement. Okay. Kind of went a little bit long-winded on introducing it and whatnot, but we're gonna get into it now. So, acknowledgement is defined as acceptance, admission, or recognition of the truth or existence of something. Now, another definition of acknowledgement is a statement of indebtedness to others. And examples of that would be like when you acknowledge somebody in a book, like the book that we just mentioned, Scars and Stripes by Tim Kennedy. He has several acknowledgments of people that he listed in there. One of being Nick Palmisano, who is one of his buddies that helps run the clothing apparel company Ranger Up. He is a guy who's in Ranger Battalion. He went to West Point. He's also got his MBA, but he also helped to proofread and um, proofread the book, kind of do some editing and whatnot. So he was, very, very crucial in that book coming to life and whatnot. But also another good example of acknowledgments would be like shout out and congratulations to Robert Downey Jr. for his Academy Award for his role in the movie Oppenheimer. Here's a guy who
RDJ.
is
If
RDJ, man. What'd you call him earlier? The legend?
you haven't, the legend, yeah. By the
The
way, if you have not
legend.
seen Oppenheimer, guys, and we're not trying to advertise for them, but like in all honesty, if you're one for historical features, this is like a great movie. I don't like. Have you haven't seen it, right? Not yet.
No, I haven't.
Dude, get on the ball. I
What
think
streaming service is it on?
I think it's I
Is it
think it's on
Netflix?
Peacock. I'm almost positive.
Yeah,
No, I think it's on
I don't
Peacock.
have that. The only one I have is Paramount Plus,
Ah,
just because I watch a couple of shows. I don't really get into TV much, dude. If it's not something I watch, I'm just like, man, I don't care. I had Hulu, and I only had that really to watch like MASH reruns. My daughter loves MASH. She can totally identify with those characters and stuff, and it's just like she's so funny. This kind of stuff she remembers. Okay, yeah, yeah, we know the theme song. What's the name of the theme song?
I don't remember. I just know the
It's
theme
called
song.
Suicide. It's called Suicide is Painless. Yeah,
Oh.
they actually in the movie version they actually sing the lyrics. But anyway, so going back on track, acknowledgement. So um, like we said, pretty much recognizing, accepting, admitting that something, the truth of something or the existence of something, or it's a statement of indebtedness. Now, we're going to kind of give some examples from our own personal life in several different contexts. So, like personal. So, the ones that I think of for personal acknowledgement is when look back and I've had people recognize that I had potential for leadership, and I was able to go into some different positions in different organizations. ROTC in high school, I was the executive officer for the company I was in. I ended up having some leadership roles in some other organizations one of the academic clubs that I was in, marching band, um, several different ways that way. And then, kind of acknowledge now to flip the script a little bit, kind of talking about some bad acknowledgement. We also have to look at, some negative stuff. So, negative acknowledgement on a personal level is kind of like when you, and I'm not, mind you, I'm not really calling anybody out in particular, but I'm just giving some generic examples for context. Is when you look at people and you realize that they don't exactly have some good character traits that you align with or associate with, or you just realize that, hey, this person just sucks as a person, and yeah, I'm not going to be involved with that kind of stuff. So kick them to the curb.
Mm,
You got for good and bad personal examples of acknowledgement there, macho?
well, honestly, I would say on the good side, probably, um, in all honesty, probably one of the few times I've actually, been acknowledged for something like some pretty good contributions was, which was a big deal for me, was becoming class sergeant during my time in the law enforcement academy.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's right. I forgot about that.
I honestly, I was the class sergeant for uh most of the cycle. I think I lost the position somewhere close towards the the end of the course,
Hmm.
which, I mean, not gonna lie, it kind of sucked, but I mean, at the same time, like, I made it through a lot of the spots where, in all honesty, most class sergeants ended up being swapped out with someone else. So I think I did pretty freaking good. And um, what really was cool about that is that the the deputy that ran our that essentially was in charge of our class basically um told me straight up one time, like, he thought I was a damn good leader, um which uh which honestly, really kind of, I would say, put some pep in my step, because I've always kind of
Of
wondered,
course.
like, what it would be like for me to actually lead, because I think a large part of it is my demeanor and the way I carry myself, not to mention my goofy ass. Um just I think a lot of people don't see me as being able to lead anything. So when that got turned around, and even though, and I would say, even in spite of my goofiness, I was put in a position to be able to lead, and it kind of just made a world. It meant the world to me. So it
Yeah,
was
of
awesome though.
course. What about negative acknowledgement?
Oh yeah, negative acknowledgement.
And not
uh,
necessarily you. We're not exactly pointing the blame on you for anything, but just like examples that maybe you've been through
um,
or experienced, firsthand or secondhand.
Honestly, I mean, I can only think of myself, because, not that I don't really care about any other people, but just,
Right.
no offense to them, their problems didn't matter to me because they weren't my problems. Um, yeah. um, I would say most likely was having to accept that accept a write up in front of, uh, my coworkers, my peers, for having, done some kind of a work violation or something. It's
I get that.
yeah,
So
it,
while you're on that, but while you're on that topic, so that actually is a good segue into our next venue. So let's talk about professional. Give good and bad example of professional acknowledgement, if you would please.
so on the professional side, um, I'm very much one for, um I want to be seen for the contributions I make it, for the contributions I make at work. So for me, it's recognize that I'm trying to do the best I can with what I'm given,
Yeah.
and recognize, um, you know, that there are quite a few things that I'm doing to get those done.
Right.
Um, and I think I've had my fair share of that. In the work position I'm at right now, you have to kind of balance a lot of different um, tasks. Um,
Hmm.
you know, and I would say to be recognized for not only being able to complete or to do those tasks, but still trying to maintain a balance while doing all those tasks, I think is one of those things that's very um it's sobering, and yet it gives you, again, it's one of those, like, I've got a pep in my step now, because now I'm like, okay, I'm actually being seen, you know
Yeah. Yeah.
um and then the negative stuff, I would say it's very much kind of that same exact type deal. You don't want to be recognized as the mess up. You don't want to be recognized as that person that has that specific quirk that just gets on everybody's nerves. And I think for a while there was a point in time where I was one of those people that was being recognized for a specific quirk, even though I wasn't doing those things a good portion of the time. And I will say, to my detriment, it actually ended up costing me, promotions and all types of stuff. Um, and
Yeah.
it's like, dude, like, really?
I can know.
Like, that
I can understand that.
wasn't even me, man. That wasn't even me. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Totally. So I have a couple of different examples of acknowledgement. So like working when I was working in retail, the second FFL that I worked at, one of the owners came up. And I've told this story before. Great gentleman named Doc Henderson. He came back and he ended up like helping out at the counter with us because we were just so dang busy on a Saturday afternoon. We were just popular. Everybody wanted to come check out the new place that was, you know, ran very professionally and managed well and well staffed, and just people were courteous and whatnot. And just it was so awkward because like I had the mindset where people only came to me if there was an issue that needed to be fixed or corrected. So he's like, "Hey man, you're doing a great job. Just want to say thank you." I'm like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I feel like Ricky Bobby, car ran really good, that kind of stuff. Um, and then one of the better ones for my military time was we were on drill up at Camp Landing, and my squad leader at the time, a guy named Pletcher, who's now the battalion sergeant major at that same over that same unit and whatnot. Excuse me. He's like, "Hey Mac, do me a favor. Here's my truck. Here's my keys. Go do XYZ for me." He's like, you're a senior guy. We got a couple of junior guys on the thing. Like, I trust you. You get it done. And I was like, that was a pretty big thing. It's like, I'm not exactly an NCO, but I've been there long enough. Like, I got a deployment under my belt. I know what I'm doing. I'm the kind of guy that you task me to do something, I'm gonna go get it done, not dick dance around and all that kind of crap. So that was like a really cool sense of acknowledgement. It wasn't even an attaboy or a pat on the back or anything like that. It was just, hey man, I trust you to go use my personal vehicle, go get this done, go get it done. It's like, cool, I'm good with that. So the flip side of that we just talked about from the professional level, there was a gentleman that I worked with. I don't want to say their name just because I'm not trying to call them out, but they worked with us for a while back in my department, and come to find out this person had gone through a certain military school and had gotten peered out of it like several different times. And, that's not exactly a testament to him just because he was a pretty smart guy, knew his stuff. It might have just been he didn't really have the typical personality you'd find of somebody that's attending that school, or what that training pipeline leads to and whatnot. So, you know, he was with us for a little while, but it kind of just came to the sense of like maybe he just wasn't a good fit, and you kind of acknowledge like, hey, you're a great dude. Maybe this just isn't the right thing for you to be doing. Give you this opportunity to go somewhere else to do something that might be a little bit more conducive to your personality or your experience level, your skill level, your intellect, so on and so forth. So there was um there was that. And again, not anything wrong with the guy. Just like, hey, maybe this just isn't what you need or what you want. So let's just part ways as friends and go from there. Now, the other sense of acknowledgement, and I kind of had a little bit of trouble with how to word this. I kind of came up with three things, and this is kind of not only for the military community, but also for like first responders and whatnot. So, acknowledging that you are joining a specific thing, whether it be being a Leo, whether it being a firefighter, a paramedic type thing, first responder type community, or the military, acknowledging that you are taking on this journey of what's starting and just being like, okay, it's going to suck for at least the first little while. It's going to definitely suck going through the training pipeline, getting certified, and then joining and becoming like that basically trained person, whether that's like you're a deputy or you're a police officer or you're a firefighter. But guess what? Now you're on probation. We're going to go and see, hey, are you going to do this without screwing up? We got, people looking over you, keeping an eye on you, all that good stuff. You get your battle buddy who's probably been there for a while. In the military, just trying to make sure you keep you out of trouble, learning the things you need to learn for your job, for your unit, so on and so forth. The biggest sense of acknowledgement that I also was talking about was a potential outcome. So what I meant by that was like if you deploy, you kind of have to have that little talk with yourself, like, hey, there's a chance I might not make it home. There's a chance that I may, pay the ultimate sacrifice doing working in this job description that I have. But that doesn't necessarily just apply to just military. It could also be folks that are, law enforcement guys that, hey, the biggest thing, and I hear this a lot from different folks in different organizations. Like, your job is go out there and protect and serve the community. Do the right thing, do the job the right way, and then get home in one piece. And sometimes that doesn't always happen, and then it's unfortunate, but you kind of have to have that sense of that kind of reality check and that gut check with yourself, like this is a pretty real freaking possibility. It's like kind of scary. When you're
Mhm.
young and stupid and you're 21 years old in Afghanistan, you think you're invincible, you whatever, you kind of have that like larger than life mentality. You're walking around smoking cigars like whatever, you don't
Yar.
care. Like
You
nowadays it's
know,
like different.
touching back on what you covered a little bit, just before,
Yeah.
you know, I had that conversation with myself right before we went to Iraq.
Yeah.
Um, it was um, it was a very pun intended one-on-one conversation. Um, and you know, I was very much of the mindset, you know, look, dude, you know, it's a possibility you may not come home. As a matter of fact, you could very well not come home at all. So get that through your head, because you signed up for this. You kind of have to you kind of have to make peace with the idea of, you're making a sacrifice for not only the ones to your left and to your left and your right. You're making a sacrifice for those back home. um and right before we went to Iraq, I, each one of the guys I know for a fact had their own way of kind of working through that part.
Mhm.
um for me, it was just very, and I think you and I have had this discussion before, that for me it was just very much like I expected to kick the bucket in combat anyway. So for me, it was just screw it. It's gonna be
Yeah.
what it's gonna be. So let's just roll with it. And
And I think it just depends on the individual. It depends on the maturity of that person, where they're at, their mindset and everything else. You know, like I kind of acknowledged it, but it probably wasn't in my mind too much just because number one, we weren't in a
mhm,
forward deployed area. I mean, we were downrange and stuff, but where we were at, there wasn't really a whole lot going on. It's the northern part of the country, so it's like, it's not so bad kind of thing. It's mainly down south and the west and the east where things were hopping and popping, and there were
yeah.
ticks all the time, troops in combat and whatnot. So,
Plus, the enemy in you
we
guys' location were freaking cowards and decided to hide for a while, kind of like what the enemy did in parts of where we were at. So, makes sense.
here. So, absolutely. I mean, and that's probably one of the biggest things growing up is like, hey, you may not come home doing this, so do it to the best of your
Mhm.
ability. So,
That's right. Damn right. Hell
but
yeah.
anyway, so the last kind of acknowledgement that you kind of need to make as somebody in one of those fields is that eventually it's going to come to an end. And when I was researching this topic earlier in the week, I talked to our good friend Brian. Shout out to Brian for always being there to help us out with the show and stuff. So we were kind of having this discussion. I'm like, dude, I don't know exactly how to word this. And he's like, well, it's kind of what you're describing is more along the lines of acceptance. I'm like, yeah, it is, but we've already talked about that, but we're not really focusing on that part of it so much. But you acknowledge the fact that like if you whether you go down the line of duty, whether military or civilian or whatnot, or you make it out and retire, it's like it's gonna come to an end one day. Like we sit here and we talk about all the time, it's not like the group of people that I talk to quite a bit about, being in the military that have something they can relate to is like, obviously you, Brian, our good friend Robert, who was in active duty with I think First Cav, and then Jose, who is also, in the Navy and the Army. It's like you acknowledge the fact that like it's just different now. It's not the military that we were in. So much has happened. There's probably a good
Yeah.
half a generation now. Because I left in my enlistment was up in 2009,
Mhm.
and then I was discharged from the IRR, Individual Ready Reserve, in 2011. So if you talk about when I left the military like 15 years ago. It's like, yikes. Like that's
It's a scary thought, dude.
I know,
And
man. It's insane. It's just
I left in
crazy.
2012, and I just came to terms with the fact that
It's
damn,
gonna be
it's
12
been
years.
12 years. God, like like
Yeah.
you think about the fact that it's been so long, and back then, you know, leaving the military wasn't an option. And then it's odd how you you recognize, you know, things things are changing, and like I didn't it I didn't come to terms with the fact that I'd be leaving the military completely until I found out that I was going to be a dad. That's
Right.
when I was like, "Oh, right.
This probably isn't
I
a young
can't do
man's
this
game
forever."
anymore. This is
Yeah.
getting older, got responsibilities and stuff. It's like, yeah.
Mhm. So, yeah, that mhm. That's all I can really say about that. As far as
For
Gump
sure.
would say, that's all I have to say about that.
I mean, but that brings up a very good point. You kind of have that moment of like introspection and clarity, and you're like, I need to be here for my kids. So like,
Mhm.
yeah. So I know, I totally get that. I mean, it was weird when I got that certificate saying, my honorable discharge certificate from the army. It's just like, whoa, like it's over.
Yeah.
That's wow. That's kind of weird.
Mhm.
Like it's just such a
It was,
strange kind of
man.
thing.
Hmm.
It was just like I can't believe that's already done. And like now I think back to it and like I don't think about it all the time, but like I do when I do think back to it, I'm like, oh yeah, I was just in Afghanistan like last week. It's like, no, dude, you've been gone.
Hmm.
It's been like
Wow.
it's this summer will be freaking, you know, 18 years that I left for Afghanistan. I'm just like,
Hmm.
whoa. Like that's somebody's lifetime. Like that's when I start feeling like, whoa. Like when they said
Yeah.
that, for this year would be, after it was a couple years ago, they said, for the first time there would be people in school learning about 9/11 that weren't alive when it happened, and they're learning about it as a historical event. And I'm just like, bro, holy crap!
you,
Like that. I was
you want
just
to
like,
hear
yikes.
something?
So,
You want to hear something sad? When I was going through the academy, one of the cadets in my academy, right, had just been born when 9/11 happened.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
I can see that.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, it
So
was
continuing
very.
our conversation, yeah, continuing our conversation on acknowledgement, we found a couple articles we're going to read for you. Let's just since we're already kind of getting late into the hour, just kind of if you would, Alamo, just kind of read over one of the ones you found and whatever you think is going to be the most beneficial to the conversation, and then I'm going to read the one that I found and just kind of hit the highlights of that, and then we'll kind of go from there. So doesn't matter which
Yeah.
one. Click out of that. Don't need that anymore. So do what you do there, buddy. No pressure. Just doing a live
Okay.
show here, my man.
Yeah. Freaking okay, so one that I found was actually an article from Forbes of all people, or excuse me, of all organizations. It was called The Importance of Acknowledgement: How Empathy Drives Leadership. Um, is actually pretty it's actually short, but it's actually pretty freaking interesting what they talk about. Um, so basically it goes on to say like what happens when people are really seen and acknowledged. As unemployment falls to a pandemic low, yeah, right. The monthly jobs report reveals a better than expected picture for spring hiring, according to the Wall Street Journal. The Labor Department said that the U.S. economy added 678,000 jobs in February, beating predictions of 56%. Now, bear in mind, this article, I believe, is about 2 years old. So since then, things have slowed down quite a bit. Um, but moving on. Um, it goes on to say, so how can leaders access greater empathy, creating the kind of acknowledgement that drives results? Um, the author goes on to say, I have a blue ribbon. Grandma Sparky said, I have a, oh, dear God. The person was reading from a child's book, by the way, which is whatever. And it says, the ribbon says, who I am makes a difference. Those words were exactly what she said when she met Jack Canfield, and he asked her what she did. Canfield, the co-author of Chicken Soup for the Soul series, featured Helise, I believe is Helise,
Yes.
I think what the name is, Bridges. That's Grandma Sparky's real name, by the way, in his first book. In addition to the 500 million copies of Chicken Soup for the Soul sold worldwide, Bridges shares that this tiny blue ribbon has been pinned on over 50 million people in a seven-step ceremony that Bridges says is very precise and very powerful. Bridges recollects stories of avoided suicides, resurrected marriages, and reinstated careers, all stemming from a simple act of empathy. So what we can kind of gather from this from this article is really the idea that being able to see to kind of step into your people's shoes is kind of like what helps, you know, kind of like what helps people be seen. Um, which I would say is kind of one of those. It makes a lot of sense, specifically because you think about the idea of all these different people that you're working with. Me and Mac, we have this common thing, and we have this common thing where both of us have served. We both did time in the military, and because of that, we can kind of step into each other's shoes and empathize with each other and be like, okay, well, I've been there, you've been there, and we see each other's perspectives. Well, it's good to try and do that in I mean, from work to relationships to, I mean, you name it. Empathy is a very big key thing to being able to acknowledge how to, number one, acknowledge people's feelings, which we're not going to get too touchy feely here, but yes, feelings are important for a lot of people. Um, and it's a fact. If you don't feel like you're being seen, you know, which there's the extreme to that where we are with so many people nowadays that we're not seen. You're the loud vocal minority. Yes, you are. But I'm not going to go there. I Ah,
That
but
was very generally undescript, but very specific as well. Very, yeah, exactly.
so it says, he finishes out the article by saying the intention behind the acknowledgement turns the words into a gift, not a reflection. There is a sincerity and an intimacy in what looks like a simple pinning ceremony, right? So basically, they're getting these blue, ribbons and all that stuff, and it's like, oh yeah, congratulations for getting over whatever this bout of depression or whatever. Think about it, whatever it was. I mean, because there's a chicken soup book for, I think, I mean,
Damn
literally
near
at this point,
everything.
I was gonna say there's a chicken soup book for, I mean, pretty much every freaking thing nowadays. So, you know, it just, I saw this and I thought to myself, like, wow, this is actually kind of cool because, you know, for many things in life, and I'm gonna leave it at this one for the Forbes article because I mean, again, it's very kind of on the nose. Like it's not, it doesn't go super in depth, but I think it gets a point across that, it's the simple things in life that really make you kind of recognize things. And that goes for helping you recognize things in others and allowing you to be able to acknowledge, like, hey, you did good there, or hey, you know I know you're going through a lot, but the fact that you're holding it together, good job, man, keep it freaking up. And as people, even hard asses like ourselves, freaking we
Hard
still
ass,
need that.
hard head, hard ass, hard head. Yep.
You still need that, even though you don't like to admit it. Yeah, just just putting that out there.
Yeah, just like when I was explaining earlier, how I had one of the owners come out and tell me doing a great job. I'm just like, I'm always been the kind of person I want to give credit where credit's due to the people that are the subordinates under me, or my coworkers or whatnot. Like, I don't like, I remember one time I got called because one of my coworkers had put me in for an award with the I think it's the ESGR award, Employee Support of the Guard and Reserve. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And I'm just like, I don't like this. Is talking about me. Like, can we just put the line on somebody else? That's great. Like, I was just like, yeah, I got things I got to do. I got to
Go
get
to
back to work.
somebody else. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. It's time to go away.
So you think you look
Ah!
at- There you go.
Oh
Oh
boy,
god.
Patrick, I have no idea what's going on,
Okay, gosh.
but I do know I
People
make a killer
people listen
Krabby
to this
Patty.
like, what the heck why the hell did it turn on to a freaking episode of SpongeBob? Like, what the crap? So the article that I found was from a it's from a website called Steeple, Steeple group,
Just
steeplegroup.com.
instead of having the P, just add a ST in front of it. Like instead of peephole, steeple, that kind of thing.
Okay, so we're moving on. So the name of the article is "Leaders Must Acknowledge the Good and the Bad, but sometimes not the ugly." And this is from Jan July of 2022. So the article starts off: Last week I got to do something I haven't done in over 2 years. I finally made it back to the movie theater. I'm an 80s kid, so getting to see the Top Gun Maverick was such a treat. There was one scene that really touched me. Val Kilmer's character told Tom Cruise's character, "You need to let go." Now, I'm not giving away any plot line here, but the reason it had such an impact on me is that I feel like this has been the story of my life lately. Letting go of fears I have about scaling the business, letting go of a way of life with my youngest going off to college, letting go of being in the middle of every client engagement, letting go of well ingrained habits that are negatively impacting my health, letting go of relationships that don't serve me, letting go of long held beliefs and assumptions, letting go of needing to make everyone happy. But I must admit, this scenario isn't always the case for me. I don't always take the time to acknowledge what is going on inside of me or even in the world around me. Life gets in the way, and it is incredibly easy just to get busy and stay content with the status quo. I chose to write this week on a subject that I struggle with because while we strive to help others grow, we aren't without fault, of course. At Steeple, we believe that we should be walking the talk. That means everyone should be constantly stretching in their leadership abilities in order to become more effective. For me, the last few years have included always having one big thing that I was working on. Some of those have included not being a bottleneck, slowing down while communicating more, implementing more automation to improve processes, and handing off work. But one of the biggest ones that I have struggled with is acknowledgement. I am a person who will always thank you, but not always remember to acknowledge the good work. I am a person that is fairly high on emotional intelligence, but not good at slowing down and acknowledging someone's low performance. See how one type of acknowledgement is positive and one is more negative. Acknowledgement is defined both as displaying the appreciation for something good and expressing the existence of something negative. Often they go hand in hand. So there's a few other things that they go on to say. I kind of going to hit the highlights here just because of time restraints and whatnot. Underlying reasons why leaders don't acknowledge the obvious. And it's got several different down here. One, if an individual is competitive because they need to constantly prove themselves, then explicitly saying they are wrong or paying tribute to another's achievements might make them feel as though they're admitting inferiority, ineptitude, or defeat. And I can totally understand that feeling. If an individual, number two,
Mhm.
if an individual was recognition deprived when growing up, praising another might make them feel uneasy because they have been so accustomed to looking at things with a very critical eye. Number three, if a person thinks that another's accomplishments and contributions are no more than what they ought to be that ought to be expected from them, they may not regard such acts as even worthy of acknowledgement. Four, if a person believes that lauding another for their achievements might make go to the recipient's head, that is, lead them to become conceited or egotistical, then that may intentionally withhold recognition. Five, if there is a culture of retribution where people have a need to cut and cover themselves to survive, they may be more likely to either throw someone else under the bus or not even acknowledge their own part of the problem. I think we just talked about this, like, I don't know, 30 minutes ago when we opened the damn show. Hey.
Mhm.
Number six, if an individual isn't very motivated by acknowledgement themselves, it might it might not even occur to them that slowing down enough to recognize a person's efforts or accomplishments might be in order. And that also kind of goes a lot with, the culture that you grew up in professionally, individually, personally, that kind of stuff. So if you come from, in like a tough love household or family, and you're not really given a lot of praise, and it's like that's kind of a foreign thing to you, it's amazing, nature versus nurture.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm.
going on, the importance of acknowledging the good. There is one simple action that can dramatically increase any leader's success in gaining the support and encouragement of his or her team members. Acknowledge great work. That means calling out excellent accomplishments by your employees or peers right away, authentically, and in consistent increments. Um, Research by Harvard Business Review article involving 980 respondents from companies with more than 1,000 employees suggests a special connection between. I'm sorry, my eyes are just kind of being goofy right now. I'm not squinting because I probably need to get glasses soon. That's part of that. But just allergies this week. I'm just kind of kicking my butt. I think my lights are
Allergies suck.
flickering a little bit. Yeah, that's why I got freaking eye drops and all this kind of stuff sitting on my desk. It's crazy. Let me go back to that last one. Research by Harvard Business Review article involving 980 respondents from companies with more than 1,000 employees suggests a special connection between acknowledgement and job satisfaction. 7 out of 10 employees who report they've received some form of appreciation from their team members say they're happy with their jobs. Without that recognition, just 39% say they're satisfied, and frequency plays a big role. Among employees who were called out for great work in the past month, 80% feel fulfilled at work. That number declines sharply with time. 75% satisfied being recognized in the past 1 to 2 months, 71% in the past 3 to 5 months, 69 in the past 6 to 12 months, 51 in the past 1 to 2 years, and then 42% for 2 years more. So, yeah, like acknowledge the good. It's easy. The importance of acknowledging the bad. Reasonable people realize when a mistake has been made, and often owning up to it solves that problem. I will repeat that. Reasonable people realize when a mistake has been made, and often owning up to it solves the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Not owning up to it as fuel and ignites a problem you may not be able to contain later. When a delivery is late, when your service was off the mark, when you have completely forgot an important deadline or phone call, don't try to deny it. As soon as you realize it's you or your team that's dropped the ball, don't make excuses. Everyone makes mistakes, literally everyone. Odds are good if mistakes are not typical for you, people appreciate and lenient. People will be appreciative and lenient when you come at them with honesty. You'll also build up trust because everyone knows how hard it is to come forward and own your errors. Be courageously transparent, and people will notice. Um, yeah, like that kind of just goes
Mm-hmm.
without saying. It's like, if you make a mistake, like I don't care if I go somewhere like a customer service rep was talking to me like, hey, there was a mistake that was made, yada yada yada. Like I just recently had an issue where I had to have my car sent to the shop to get repaired, and I was filing a claim on my app, and I was like, it wasn't really where I hit anything, another driver. A freaking deer ran across the road, and I smacked into it about 60 miles an hour. And they had it listed as collision. I'm like, hey, that's not really collision. I didn't hit anything else. They're like, yeah, you're right. It's comprehensive. So let's just get that switched over. And it was done. And it was like, okay, cool. And then also just the fact of like, hey, the place that took care of my car stuff, they were sending updates and like boom, 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 all that kind of good stuff. It's like they're acknowledging the customer, they're acknowledging that this is a stressful time. Like, hey, let's make this easy for you. We got the rental car taken care of, all that kind of stuff. And it's simple. It's all you got to do, just little things like that. What about the ugly? Now, as you know, I am a big advocate of transparency as a leader, so I'm going to say something here that may not be very popular. What I've seen over the last several years in working with clients is that another responsibility of a leader is to go to bat for your team. A leader in touch with their team's capabilities, workload, intent, and environment can protect their team from the ugly at times. This might be standing up to the board if it means not delivering bad news prematurely, or it might mean taking one for the team members over an established relationship with a client or vendor. Now, that shouldn't be the go to or begin to become an unhealthy dynamic, but being courageously authentic and sometimes standing in the line of fire for your team can be the key in certain
I'm
situations.
gonna
As a
say this one thing, bruh. That
Yeah,
right
man, go
there
for it.
is some damn facts because I've known leaders that do not go to bat for their team. In fact, they will go out of their way to shame the people that are on their team to make themselves look better and to make themselves seem the good guy, to make themselves seem like they're the hero of the story.
Incorrect.
And I'm sorry. Yeah. And sorry, dude. Poor actions of your freaking subordinates is a reflection of leadership. And you're not going to tell me any different. And if you don't recognize that, then shame the hell on you for not recognizing the fact that you have poor habits or poor whatever it is that got yourself and your people in the situation that you're in. Shame on you.
Totally. I mean, I used to have I have a customer, I can't remember the guy's name. I can see his face clear as day. One of my best customers, like repeat customers I have when I was, the department head for the shooting range. This guy came in the first time and he was like, "Hey, I have an issue." And he was kind of getting a little bit upset and kind of tiptoeing the
Testy.
borderline of testy, but kind of, crowding the border of being irate. And I kind of saw this guy. I was like, "Hey, sir," I said, "I'm the manager. Let me help you out. What's going on?" And he was sitting here, and he was like, had all legitimate, legitimate beefs. He's like, "Why is this taking so long? What's the hold up?" I'm like, "Sir," I said, our biggest problem is that we're good at what we do. We're the most popular new place in town. We're clean. We're run efficiently. We're professional." And I said, and I understand that that's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. I mean, you can obviously see we have all these people coming into the place. So what can I do to fix it? And he was just like, "I have no idea. I really just wanted to complain to somebody." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Well, I'm the person that handles those complaints because these guys, all the staff that works back here, they just are in charge of, getting people checked in, getting them lane assignments, getting ammo, getting targets, all that kind of stuff. That's on me. So what can I do to help?" And he's like, "I don't know. I just wanted to complain." I'm like, "All right, well, let's solve the problem." So, we got him taken care of. And the guy who came out, he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna admit that," and I forget exactly how he worded it because he goes, um, he said something along the lines of like, "I could have handled that better. I appreciate you being professional and talking to me in a professional way, even when I wasn't. It's like, you guys have shown me something. I will for sure be back." I'm like, "Okay. We'll see you then." And the
Mhm.
guy came back a shit ton of times, and he was a good dude. And it's like it just started off something like that, and it turned around and became such a great, interaction. I was like, "Hey, what's going on?" And like he knew me by name. I knew him by his first name. I just can't remember it now. It's been so damn long ago. Sorry. But yeah,
Mhm.
and it's one of those great stories where it's just like, it can start off crap. Just a little acknowledgement just goes a long way. You can have like I would especially like I can acknowledge the fact that like you had customers, especially coming back to like the shooting range. It's not retail. Nothing against folks that were in retail,
Mhm.
but like they're not going to be back there spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on hardware and accessories. A freaking high-end tactical rifle or hunting rifle or sporting shotgun over and under style shotgun, whatever the case. They're going to come back.
Indeed, Karuni.
Exactly. They're gonna come back and maybe spend $20 for a box of ammo, some targets, or a lane assignment, or a combination of those three. I had one guy would come in, he would spend $1. He would buy two paper silhouette targets and run through like 100 rounds of ammo out of his 1911 pistol. And he was there for 30 minutes. He did that every day. And the guy was a great shot. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, you go to the range for $1 because he obviously bought a membership back when it wasn't astronomically expensive. But it's like he came in and spent $2. It's like, right, there's a lane over there, and he kind of always liked to have a lane kind of on one side so he could kind of police's brass and all that kind of stuff. But it's like, yeah, those are the guys that come back and it'll freaking defend you tooth and nail to everybody else. Like, why is this place so busy? It's like, well, we're popular. Everybody else who wants to come in and shoot this place, see this line of people down here, like they all want to partake too. So acknowledgement. But yeah, so and the article brings up a lot of good points. Right, acknowledging the good things, acknowledging the bad things. Don't be afraid to acknowledge the ugly, and that's one thing. It's like that's a completely separate topic, but just being able to say, hey, this is my department, this is my crew back here. I'm the one that's in charge. I'm gonna take the hit on it. That's what you do. Mission, the men, and then myself. Like that's any type of NCO responsibility. It's the three things: the mission, take care of you guys and you, and then your needs come last. And if you can acknowledge that, then hey, I mean that's going to help set you up for success down in the future. But let us know what you think. When this gets posted online on YouTube or the different apps or whatnot, feel free to leave a comment. Talk about what you thought about this. Acknowledgement goes a long way. Just even from the sense of like customer service. Something else that I saw kind of talking about this, they kind of unrelated. It was an article talking about how I forget where I heard this, so I can't 100% guarantee the validity of this article or this tidbit of information, but they were talking about how certain retailers now like to have like self checkouts, like larger corporate retailers are now saying that they have to pay a monthly fee with like one of their shopping apps and memberships in order to use the self checkout because of the fact they're having so much retail loss because of people, trying to ring out stuff at the self checkout. Like they're ringing out a chair, but they're paying for like a bag of rice. The chair's $30, but they bought a bag of rice for like $2.75. It's like maybe if you acknowledge the fact that instead of having people sitting here watching you ring out on a damn cellular device, instead of having a cashier there, who knows? Maybe you don't have to acknowledge the fact that you're losing billions of dollars to retail theft because you're not managing the expectations of the customer.
You know what the problem is? They're losing billions and billions of dollars because what they're doing is they're not allowing people to. I'm kidding. I'm not going to go there.
I was going to give Mr. President his time on the soapbox. Go for it, man. Go for it, DJ.
Listen, folks, people, they want to be taken care of and they want great service. They don't want a computer screen telling them what they want. They want people there. They want to talk to people telling them what they want because you know what? That's how business is done. I don't take I take responsibility that whenever I did a deal, I was always there to make the deal. People need to be talking to people. It's like this AI. I don't do that AI. You know what? I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it right and I'm going to do it fast. Okay? Trump 2024.
Thank you. Thank you to former President Trump for that great little spot that he did on our show. We appreciate that, sir. So that's our talk on acknowledgement.
Some people will say soon to be president.
Your screen froze. There you go. Anyway, so that's our talk on acknowledgement. We could very easily continue this on for another hour at least. But like I said, tell us your thoughts on this. When it goes on to the different spots, YouTube or the different apps you can listen to, feel free to leave a comment. Tell us what you thought. Give us your thoughts on this subject matter that we discussed tonight. So that being said, we're going to start wrapping the show up. This has been our talk on acknowledgement. So if you're new to the show, the way that this show started is that we have a good friend of ours, of Alamo and myself, that we used to work with when we all worked together. His name's John, and John was a good dude, funny as hell, just great guy. And unfortunately, John, down the road, we kind of lost contact and fell out of touch with him. And we found out one day that John had unfortunately solved a temporary problem with a permanent solution and committed suicide. So we were talking about the show, and then we found out about that. And I was kind of a little apprehensive at the time. I told Alamo, I was like, dude, John's gone. This is what happened. And he's like, damn. I said, dude, I'm in. Like, that's kind of like the catalyst aha moment for me. It was hearing about John. It's like, we're going to do this shit. Absolutely. So, Alan was like, dude, we should do a podcast. I'm like, I don't know crap about a podcast. He goes, dude, they sent a monkey to space. How hard can it be? I'm like, those are facts. Those are absolute facts. So we can, a couple of knuckle draggers can figure this shit out. So absolutely. So in the process of coming up with the show and the message, see the scars. That's a great photo of the two of us. Couple of fantastic. You have to watch that part, folks. You can't listen to that and see what we're doing. In the process of coming up what the show was about and the message and whatnot, we envisioned the Battle Bros Code, and what that is it's just 4 simple things you can do, 4 tenets to kind of keep yourself in the right headspace and keep yourself around. When it comes down to the nitty gritty of it, everybody has a right to be here. Everybody should be here to tell your story, especially the veteran community. This right here is one of the biggest things that we're fighting still. And that is the statistic of 22 veterans a day are still committing suicide. Now, that may have fluctuated up or down. I don't know, but that's what I've got on that bracelet. But we're going to use that statistic right there. So that is 22 too many. And especially when it's one of the people, when you know one of those names of those 22 people on average a day, it hits a little bit deeper. I mean, like I said, John was a great guy and it would be awesome if we could have him on this show, but we can't do that. So we do this show in memory of him. But yeah, the Battle Bros Code is what we came up with to kind of help keep yourself around and keep yourself in a good headspace. So we're going to share that with you now. So easy to remember. Just remember the letters BROS. The first one is B. Be tenacious. No matter what you do in life, do it to the fullest of your ability. Like we said earlier in acknowledgement, when you are going and praising, a good work ethic or a great bit of hard work, don't do that willy-nilly. Like, go in there and be honest, be sincere, be appreciative, and look at how much job performance and satisfaction goes up. 80% people say, yeah, I got acknowledged at work for doing a great job. 80% say they felt filled at work. And that's something simple you can do. Just say, hey, pat on the back, great job, appreciate you busting your ass for us. Like the great Ron Swanson once said, don't half-ass 2 things, whole ass 1 thing. Words to live by, folks. R, refuse to surrender. There are going to be times when things happen in your life, in your personal life, professional life, your military life. Things are going to get you sideways, twisted, kind of off track, off topic. Sometimes you're doing a road march, you fall down, you twist your ankle. Okay, that sucks. Get up, brush yourself off, keep going. Finish the job, finish the mission. Okay. Obliterate your obstacles. Kind of going hand with the last one. When you have those when you have those things that come up, circumvent that stuff. Sometimes in order to bypass a crappy section of road, you might have to march 100 yards into the wood line, go about a quarter mile up the road and hit back to the main path and then keep going, whatever the case may be. Sometimes in order to go over an obstacle, you don't go over it, you go around it, you go under it, you crawl through the mud or whatever. Sometimes you breach a wall with some Bangalores and C4, and sometimes you back a armored vehicle into the structure. It happens. Obliterate your obstacles no matter what happens. Just remember to keep driving on until you complete the mission and hit the OBJ, hit the X. Lastly, S, seek out help in a time of need. As we mentioned with John, we fell out of touch with him, and that's something that I sincerely regret to this day because, like I said, John was a great dude, and he deserves to be here just like anybody else. No matter what you cite for the reason of this occurring, a lot of times in the military community, we're just told to take all this stuff and just bottle it way down and put it in a box and never talk about it. Yeah, well, that shit causes ulcers, so don't do that. Okay. Let's change the status quo. Feel free to talk to somebody. If you're going through, listen, as humans, we are social creatures. Okay, just like primates or whatever, because we're also related to them too. You have to understand, we're not really meant to go through things alone. Okay, It takes a tribe, it takes a village, it takes a team effort. I know if I ever have anything going on, I can call this guy right here and be like, "Hey, dude, I got something going on. It's kind of crappy. Like, let's talk about it and let's go from
Yeah.
there." And we've done that. And he's called me and vice versa. And we've hashed things out till the wee hours of the morning. There's been times where we've gotten together and had a beer and discussed things and maybe cried about
Tell
things
me
a little
something,
bit.
bro.
So,
Why is it the World War II vets got it so right and our generation has got it so wrong?
they didn't have social media.
Yeah, and yet they did so much better than we are at just
They were also
dealing with
tougher. You're
things.
talking about, kids and young men that came out of the depression. So they're already built for
Mhm.
toughness. And they're like, I don't have to go to work. I get to go hunt and kill some Nazis. All right, cool. Let's do it. You had guys that were, I mean, just the whole, and this is just my opinion, but like you have everything just going and just taking place in a way where it's like young people were going off to war that were able, and people were lying about their age to go fight. Nowadays, people are like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I got allergies. I can't do that kind of stuff." And I'm not making fun of anybody, but like that's the general consensus. Like,
Yeah.
it's scary. But you go back to
I
that time
think
frame, you had the guys going off to war. You had women that were saying, okay, the guys are going to war. Now we have to go into the factories and the manufacturing lines and
Mhm.
make automobiles and making tanks and making airplanes and all the stuff they need. You had people stepping up like Singer, instead of making sewing machines, they're making freaking weapons of war. It's like, yeah, let's do this
I
shit.
think another big part of it was, you know, these guys weren't coming back on planes. They were coming back on troop transports that went across the ocean. So these
Yeah.
guys had nothing but time with each other. And these trips sometimes could take a week, sometimes could take 2 weeks, and they would just be on the ships with each other, decompressing, talking about the whole thing on the way back home.
Yeah.
And I just don't think there's enough of that anymore.
Yeah, I
Sorry, I'll
mean,
let you
there's
finish.
there's a there's a lot to be said for that, dude. I mean, we could easily go into that conversation. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Um,
Mhm, mhm,
but yeah,
mhm.
I mean, you had these guys. They went off to war together. They fought together. They died together, and they came back home together. Whereas nowadays, I mean, you're on an airplane. It's not quite the same thing. You might demo with your unit, but you know, it's just a different world we live in. And I'm gonna kind of just stick to my guns on that answer. It's like you have social media, you have all this other stuff. There's too much readily accessible, you know, there's too much ready access to like alcohol and all that kind of dumb shit. Like, um,
Mhm.
remind me to tell. Remember the picture I showed you about the accident from last night, the truck and stuff. It's like that's just it's too commonplace. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's the story for another time. But like we were saying, folks, if you need to reach out to somebody, um, whoever that person, whatever they look like, whoever it is, it could be a family member, it could be somebody you served with, it could be somebody that like a trusted childhood friend. I've got several of those criteria right here with this guy. Um, it it depends on what that looks like for you. Just don't feel like you have to go through it alone, because that's not how things work. Like, we're social creatures by design.
You don't.
It takes a village. Exactly. So, in the event you don't have somebody that falls into one of those criteria that we just talked about, a friend, a family, a coworker, a confidant, fellow service member, there are resources out there. There is the national, if you feel like, unfortunately, like you're going down a bad path and you feel like wanting to end it all and solving a temporary problem with a permanent solution, there is the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. You can call 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255, or the word talk, 1-800-273-TALK, TALK. They have somebody that will be on the phone with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you feel like you're going to do something dreadfully and unfortunately irreversible and whatnot. So you can also, and they just started this last year, about June of last year, you all can also dial 988. That's 988. That's great for folks. Everybody has a damn cellular device nowadays. So you can talk to somebody via text message. You can call somebody direct. But again, there's somebody there that can help you. Okay, trust in them to be able to help you. Trust the fact that you do not have to go through this alone. There's a lot of people that aren't here anymore, and Alamo brings up a good point. It's gotten steadily worse as we've gone through these different conflicts in our lifetimes. And before that, World War II wasn't so bad. Then you started seeing Korea and Vietnam. And now you got Desert Storm, and now GWAT. And there's been so many people. Like the numbers are freaking staggering, man. Like it's sobering as shit. You're just like, oh God. Like there's every one of those people is somebody that's like, there's a story there, there's a family there, there's relatives that aren't going to know this person anymore. There's people that just it's a period. It just stops. It's like, okay, and that's just dreadful. We want to put an end to that with by us doing this show. We want to put an end to that. So that's all I've got for right now. Alamo's going to finish doing the social media piece. He's going to talk about where you can find us and whatnot, and then we're going to talk about our friend Amelia, and then we're going to get out of here and let you guys have a good night. So take it away, Machu.
So if you want to catch us on the social medias, there are plenty of places you could go ahead and do that. One of which being our friends over there at Meta, which you can catch us over on the Facebook at facebook.com/battlebros.podcast. You can also do that on the Instagram at battlebros_podcast. You can contact us on either one of those social media platforms via the instant messaging system, to including X, formerly known as Twitter, at BattleBrosPC. Once again, just try and jump on those instant messengers and catch us there. I am monitoring Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram all the freaking time on those channels every single day. So if you guys ever wanted to go ahead and contact us and, say, hey, I'm not getting through to a lot of people here. I'm having trouble, can you guys just, have like a quick, back and forth, text conversation. Hey, we'll do it for you, man. If you feel that you need to contact us a little bit more privately because you're worried that something you might say might worry some people or otherwise, do so at our email at battlebrospc@gmail.com. Please do not hesitate. Do not make a decision that is going to be permanent and is going to let's be honest, it's going to hurt other people more than it's going to hurt you. Okay,
So
it just is.
Let me interrupt real quick, Macho. So my daughter a while back said, "Daddy, how many followers do you have on your show?" And I was like, I don't know. That's really not important.
No.
It's we have a good message we're getting out, and hopefully it gets to the right people. But I would be I could, I'm grateful for the followers and the people that follow the show. Thank you so much for being a part of this journey with us. But
Absolutely.
if we can stop and save one person and turn them around, and they're like going, hey, I was going to do something that I could not change, but I saw one of your shows and it kind of made me stop and think and assess where I was in my life. And I'm still here because of you guys. That to me is a much more apropos and concrete statistic than getting caught up in followers. Yes, it's important. I don't want to
Yes.
nullify
Correct.
the loyalty of the folks the consumers that watch or listen to our show. I appreciate that. I very much do. If I could stop somebody from taking their own life because they didn't think there was a way out or help, then that's pretty freaking awesome. It's like I want to
Yeah.
know, and I want to do that. Absolutely.
That means more to us than, the follower count. That means more to us than any of that stuff. And if the follower count grows because of that, then that's sweet. But really, it's about
The
you
followers,
guys.
yes, are important, but it's not for trivial means. We
Right.
want to know that there's people out there that are going to take the message, and it may not apply to them. Hey, take and spread it to somebody else. Pass it along, pay it forward till it gets to somebody that says, you know what? I was in a bad place. I watched your show. These guys are complete asshats. The dude with the big dome is kind of scary looking and scares children. The other guy over here is hilarious. Kind of in a Rico Suave kind of way. But they've got a good message, and you know what? it was pretty awesome. And I started listening to some other stuff they had to say, and it's like, if they're faking the funk, hey, they're doing it in a great way that I thought like I could listen to this stuff. I learned something. Hopefully
Yeah.
you don't think we're scam artists because we're not. We just don't
No.
always. I mean, we're doing the best we can with the skills we got. I mean, listen, you could just call us.
Yeah,
You could call us you could have called us the FC podcast, the monkey F and a coconut. So hey, it's all good. But this is what we're doing. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's it's very much a passion project for us now. I know I keep interrupting him while he's talking, so I apologize. But like I said, this is very important to us and we don't take it lightly. So yes,
That's
we
right.
appreciate the followers. Yes, we appreciate the listeners and the viewers. And it's all about stopping somebody from taking that ultimate decision and not being able to come
And
back from
acting
it.
on
So
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Just remember that, y'all. If there are other places that you'd like to catch us, if YouTube is not sometimes the best place for you to catch us, you can do that on any audio platform that you find is your best listening spot. We are on Spotify. We are on Google. We are on iHeartRadio. We are on Amazon
whole
Radio. So
podcast.
Apple Podcasts. Ask Alexa, ask Siri. They will find us and they will bring us up on there so that you can give us a listen.
We do
Uh,
not take sides when it comes to Google or Apple. You can find us
correct.
either which way. We are we are bipartisan. We're all about everybody,
Multiple
listening to our show.
platforms.
Yes, absolutely. So
Um, Also, if again, YouTube is not the best place that you can find us, you can find us over on Rumble. All you have to do is go rumble.com, download the app, go into the search bar, type in Battle Bros, all one word, Battle Bros, one word, and you will find our channel there, and you'll be able to you'll be able to watch, hit that rumble button, so that way we know that you're watching, and you'll be able to actually get that message, the messages that we put out every single week, spread onto the rumble platform and across the rumble platform, and just expand the reach. Again, we're out here to try to save lives. Um, we're That's honestly the most important thing to us, is making sure, and again, this extends to law enforcement as well as fire. um hey, you guys are making sacrifices as well. You're in the same camp as military, and we want to make sure you guys are okay. um and if you just do any of the things that we talked about earlier, contact us, email us, whatever, on any of those things that we talked about, you'll be doing not only yourself, but you'll be doing, most importantly, your family and friends a favor. That's all I got.
absolutely. So the last bit of acknowledgement. Hey, see what I did there? We want to give a shout out to our good friend Amelia. She runs a website. It is Heart to Hand Homestead on Etsy.com. The web address listed below. It is Etsy.com/shop/Heart to Hand Homestead. Please go check that out. She makes homemade soaps, which are fantastic. They're not expensive, not going to break the bank. They're all made from scratch, very hypoallergenic. She does all kind of different
Oh,
stuff. I believe at certain times she does what?
and by the way, oh my god, bro. So I gotta say this. I was getting the coffee and rum soap. I also use the
Mhm.
charcoal one, but I noticed one thing, that if you have like kind of like that sensitive skin, and you have allergies, and you kind of break out in like little rashes fairly easy depending on what you're exposed to that day. Especially like if when your beard gets longer, especially if you're not moisturizing, guys, don't sleep on using pomade, don't sleep on using beard oil, I'm telling you. But when I shaved using Amelia's soaps, if you want to talk about like I'm talking like it felt like I had butter on my face, but in a good way. Like I'm. This is not even a joke. I felt like it was like after the shave, like after I got out of the shower, I was like, oh my god, my cheeks are moisturized. Like this is freaking amazing. Like no, it did. Like this is like genuine. Like it's a genuine reaction. I genuinely was like, oh my god, this feels so good. Like
So
during and after the shave was amazing.
So I have her website pulled up right now, and this is what she has available right now. The different bar soaps she has. So there is one rosemary and peppermint. There's lavender, peppermint, and eucalyptus. There is pine tar, citrus, and tea tree bar soap. There's
Mhm.
unscented. There's denim and leather. That's probably my favorite, just because kind of gives you that rugged kind of like, yeah, you kind of feel like you want to go out and
Yeah.
jump on a horse and go, tend the fence or something on, do that kind of stuff. She also has whipped body butter that's lavender scented. There's lavender shampoo bar. There is lavender tea tree and eucalyptus, and then just a lavender bar soap as well. It is fantastic.
Did you say
Um,
lavender butter bar?
there's lavender. It's lavender bar. It's a lavender bar soap, is what that is. There's also
Gotcha.
whipped body butter, which is lavender scented
Ooh,
as well. So, I mean, you're
yes.
only
I
looking
like
at
that
like
next experiment.
that's the most expensive item right now at $10. Everything else is either 5 or 6. But please check it out. She has been a good friend of ours for a long time, so we want to share the love with her and acknowledge that her stuff is awesome. She should check it out. Please send her some love that way. I don't have anything else. I think we're good.
Remember, guys, Etsy.com/shop/heart to hand homestead.
Check it out. Tell them you heard about it on the Battle Bros podcast. It's not gonna get you a discount or anything because I mean stuff's already not that expensive, but just let her know. Hey, it's from these guys.
Yeah.
So again, that's gonna wrap up our show for this tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 073 entitled Acknowledgement. We appreciate you stopping by. We hope that you come back and see us down the road. And just remember, when things are getting tough, don't fret, don't freak out. Just remember, be tenacious, refuse to surrender, obliterate your obstacles, seek out help in a time of need. If you can do that, things are gonna be a-okay. But until the next time, this has been the Battle Bros podcast with Mac and Alamo. Thank you so much for stopping by and joining us. We will check you down the road. And until then, you stay classy out there.
Battle Bros out.
Carry on.